Welcome to All Mixed Up. Welcome everybody to All Mixed Up this month. I'm mixing it up yet again. I got the all new up and running Chad Reynolds in the house. Chad, welcome to All Mixed Up, brother. I'm glad to have you on board.
Hey, like always, glad to be here, man.
The patrons know your debut. You did an episode. Well, you've done several episodes with me, but this is your first on-air extravaganza for Houndsman XP. And I'm glad to have you here, buddy.
Yeah, it was fun. I'll hopefully get better at it, but it was fun so far.
You've wasted no time bringing in great content. I was very happy. You were extremely helpful for me this month. And guys, Chad's a beast. He got hired, and then within weeks, he was already churning out awesome content for me. And I was like, dude, what a guy. So this month is Chad heavy, and I'm happy about that because we've been running hard here at Houndsman XP, and we have been bringing in all kinds of stuff. You guys know that this September is going to be huge. We have our 1 million download mark approaching soon, and that's going to bring in some lucky person to get awesome content drawn for them if you can guess the date right. And then we also have our Patreon drawings. We also have the Redbubble store that is launching, everybody. This is the Houndsman XP news for this month. There's just too much on Houndsman XP's plate, so we wanted to make sure that we spent this episode just getting you guys up to speed and getting any reminders to anybody that missed anything that has been going on our social media feeds. Thank you, Lauren. So the Redbubble store is available. You'll see links on our social media pages that allows you to go to the Houndsman XP official Redbubble store and put original artwork from Outer Agenda and the Houndsman XP logo on anything you want, guys. So I just want to make that clear. You can put it on mouse pads, activewear, hoodies, everything you can imagine. And the artwork that Outer Agenda is putting out is so rad. And stay tuned, guys, because there's a lot more coming. We think it, and he brings it to life with like awesome detail and skills. Because I don't know about you, Chad, but when I try to draw, it's like, it's just it's
no good. My daughter can beat me right now.
Yeah, I have such a good vision in my head, but when hand meets paper, it's like I'm drunk or something. It's pretty embarrassing.
I'm with you.
But yeah, and then so we got that, the 1 million, some important individual is gonna guess that lucky date. And then lastly, you guys, I wanted to talk about, what am I missing, Chad?
The Patreon.
That's right.
It's all free content.
Yes. So for the month of September, you guys, everything that we're posting on the Patreon page is public. And the reason we're doing that is because we want people to see what's going on there. We already have dozens and dozens of bonus episodes there, tons of footage and pictures behind the scenes, like of us hunting. Because although we spend a lot of time behind the mics, especially Chad this month, you guys, we hunt a lot. And my season's just getting going. And so we're going to start bringing in way more rad content to the Patreon page starting, well, tomorrow. Well, by the time this airs, check it out next Thursday and yesterday. So I just want everyone to know that we're public. Get in there, check it out. And if you guys haven't seen the Patreon drawings on our Facebook group, that's a monthly thing where we draw for our patrons. So you get all kinds of cool prizes. And then twice a year, it's a semi-annual drawing that's worth at least $200. And then once a year, for our highest tier patrons, there's a prize package worth at least $500. So I just wanted to, you guys have heard this, but I want to make sure that people are getting the word out that Houndsman XP is giving back to you guys for your listenership. We can't even be here without you guys, and we really appreciate the global hound hunting community. So that was it for Houndsman XP news. Chad, I'm going to let you run after I do my brief talk. This month's theme is truck boxes. And we asked several folks If you could build a dream rig for a specific reason, what would you do? And of course, in the spirit of all mixed up, we mixed it up a little bit. The questions got varied, didn't they?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. A little bit of
So,
everything.
well, why don't you, Chad? Why don't you break down your first segment here? Give us a brief intro about what you talked about, and we'll roll right into it. I don't want to keep our guests waiting too long. There's a lot of content here, so this is going to be a long episode.
All right. Well, the first fellow I had on was Bruce Swanson. He had uh, uh, a very seasoned veteran hunter for hounds, mules, the whole bit. He's a coyote hunter, he's a terrier man, and now he's actually getting into bird dogs a little bit. So we started off by asking him specifically about the hounds and getting the hounds and the mules to the field, you know. And then just kind of bled on to everything else. But he's got all kinds of stuff, and he actually fabricates hunting rigs himself. So some dog boxes back in the day, and trailers, and the whole setup. Actually, a mule box where they load in from the back, and they're on top of like a truck bed cab, and there's all kinds of interesting stuff in there with Bruce.
Sweet.
And then we talked to Chris. Yeah. Then we talked to Chris Powell about hounds and just hunting here and there for bear, and then northeast region as far as the southwest, and just some key takeaways from him, things that he thought were super critical and stuff that he's tried before that didn't work out so well. And then just to change things up a little bit, I talked to some Tyler Sladen, another falconer, and me and him swapped stories for different ways we've either gotten our birds to the field or other falconers, seasoned falconers that we know how they've done it. So not only the logistics of getting the bird to the field, but then different rigs for hunting the bird in the field as well. So just a little bit of everything.
Yeah, clearly. Well, you know what? Normally we have a short intermission between the segments, but let's just run them. You gave a great great intro for all of them. So here we go, guys. Here comes all three of Chad's awesome interviews about hauling a myriad of creatures.
Hi, everybody. All right. Got Chad Reynolds here, and I got Bruce Swanson on the line, a man of many trades and all kinds of exciting stuff to tell us about hounds, mules, and the rigs that get all of them to the woods. So how you doing today, Bruce?
I'm awesome. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm doing great. Well, so just so that we know who we're talking to here, kind of tell us some of your background, like some of the things you like to do in the woods.
Well, I originally started off with bird dogs as a kid and then growing up. And after I got into my 20s and moved to the Southwest Desert, Nevada area, mountain lions came on to the forefront. So I started big game hounds and curs, and big game hound cur crosses were my thing. And I did that for about 25 years with a little hiatus in the middle of having some stag hounds and catching a lot of coyotes. And, a couple old timers I ran into were mule men like David Heiss from some down in New Mexico way. And
oh yeah, we know about David. Yeah.
Oh, David he's the man.
Yeah.
And then such guys as I partnered up with Cal Allen for a long time, which is a big cur dog guy. And
oh yeah,
we've chased around a lot of country, and I've done everything from hogs, bears, lions, bobcats to I went to British Columbia and hunted lynx with Doug Mann from Skinner Creek Outfitters. And now I'm back into the bird dogs again.
Is that right? Well, that sounds plenty. And you even did some terrier stuff too, didn't you?
Yep. I had one of the very first Jag Terriers in the country back in the 80s. And she was a force to be reckoned with, but she only had 20 pounds. So now I've got a Sean O'Neill Truck Terrier that's about 35 pounds. And she's in it to win it, but has just a little bit more backside and a little more sense. And
yeah,
she's my do everything dog. She's my house dog, my guard dog, and she's killed coons at the house, and she'll tear the back end out of a hog if you give her a chance.
Yeah, they've I've seen a few of them work, and they're a lot of fun to look at and hear about. And I'm still messing with the Ag Terriers myself, amongst other things, kind of like yourself. But I've heard a lot of fun things about those truck terriers. Well, that kind of brings us to the next part. You know, because of that, you've got stags and hounds and Yag Terriers and truck terriers and all that. And you've built, you know, fabricated some hunting rigs, dog boxes yourself. I guess specifically to start us off, what kind of regions did you hunt at when you were, you know, doing the hounds work with the mules or without? What kind of regions were you hunting?
All mostly Southwest desert, but like I said, all the way up to British Columbia. So that was a 3-day drive one way. So yeah, your boxes are really, you know, important, you know, and you learn a lot of things on the way. You know, convenience is one, materials another, but in where I spent most of my time in the Southwest desert of New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and Nevada, you know, you got to worry about heat more than you got to worry about anything else.
All right. And on that, like, what were some ways that you know, prevented any kind of heat injury or casualty or facilitated that?
Well, in my experience, you can cook a dog way quicker than you can freeze them. So what I found is every time I thought of comfort and trying to enclose them, what I ended up doing was creating more of a problem with the heat. So what I did is I always tried to, every time I'd create a box, it was always with the intention that I could have it open as much as possible. A little story that goes along is August is the first bear opening in Arizona in the northern units or over Unit 1, but I'd have to cross the Hoover Dam and there was traffic and sometimes you got stopped and it's 110. You got 7 dogs in a box and it's 110 at a dead still. You started worrying. So I worked with fans. I did kind of all the rest. And the bottom line that worked for me was I would keep it as open as possible. And then when the last stop that I could, I'd run into the 7-Eleven there outside of Kingman and throw in 3 bags of ice and rip the bag open and create a little swamp cooler inside there. So when I got stuck on the dam and it was 110, they were having their own little swamp cooler party with wet and cool air.
Yeah. And a lot of folks don't realize that when you're on the dam and, you know, asphalt or cement like that, as much of the heat's coming back up off the bottom, it is coming down from the top. So they get it coming from all angles. So did you use expanded metal or bars on the sides with a flat top, or what did you find?
Well, you know, it depended on which rig I had at the time, but I did it all. Expanded metal, the problems that I found with expanded metal is anytime where a dog could get his toenail, he's going to get his toenail stuck in it. And then you got ripped off toenails that go in there, you know. So then I did perforated metal, you know, where it just had holes in it, and that limited it a bunch. So ultimately, most of mine were just bars, you know, and then what I would do is I'd make metal covers that would, you know, with thumb screws and stuff that would screw on panels so that way later in the year when it got cold, when I was up hunting below 0, then I could close the box up on the sides.
I gotcha. That makes sense. So heat, that's always a big one. We had another guest talk about an insulated top, you know, like either with foam in it or double skinned or some type of insulation on the roof. I thought that was a really clever idea. I've always had aluminum boxes myself, and that's been my way of dealing with the heat. And kind of like you mentioned, as much ventilation as I can make happen. So, all right, that makes sense. With
aluminum is good as long as they ain't got to sit on it, you know, as long as they ain't got to touch it. You know, if they do, then you know, I would put, you know, I always had aluminum top. You know, the other thing in 99% of my fabrication, all that I'm worried about is weight. That's the second thing, because most of my rigs, you know, were either my off-road rigs were my Toyotas. So then you really had to watch the weight because the Toyotas are notorious for being able to get everywhere, but they don't hold a lot of weight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of guys like the bigger trucks. I never, I've had big trucks. I've run the diesels. I still got I got an '06 diesel. That's my dog truck now, but they just don't go where the old Yoders can go.
That's right.
And then the mule box, I went both different directions with my mule box. I built a mule box that was corrugated metal on the sides where the sides could come down, jump rack in the back where it opened up, but it was as light as we could get it without, because I couldn't afford aluminum for that whole thing. So I did sheet metal and it kept it as light as I possibly could. But, the first one I built, I built it for 2 mules because I always seemed to have somebody that wanted to go along, or if you were guiding and you needed to take them, they didn't want to walk. So that was a huge deal, having one big enough and then having it high enough above the axle. So that caused weight problems, swaying back and forth. So then I took it off a single wheeled 3/4 ton because it just scared me to death going around those mountain roads, thinking I'm going to blow a tire and this whole thing is going to end up down in the ravine.
Yeah.
And then I went to a dually and put it on a Ford 1-ton dually, and that was great on the road. But as you know, dualies absolutely grind it out in the mountains.
Yeah.
So they're not the best there. So
break this down for us, because I'm sure, myself included, with some other listeners, how does the mule box exactly work? This isn't a trailer. This is on the actual back of the bed of the truck, right?
Correct. Yeah. It's like, if you can envision a cab over camper made so you can put your mules in the back.
Okay.
And then under the nose piece up against the cab, I put 2 foot by the width of the truck. So it was 7 foot. 2 foot by 7 foot all the way across was a dog box, and I did double decker. So I could actually haul almost 16 dogs.
And the mules.
And 2 mules.
And in what vehicle?
And that was on my 3/4 ton Dodge. That's the single axle. And then I moved it to a 1-ton dually.
That's fantastic. Okay. So break this down for me. The mules are going to load in the back and then slide up to the front, and then they get closed in. Your dog boxes, are they accessed from the outside? From
the outside. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And they're divided in the middle, so I could put 4 in on. I could put 8 in on the right side or the passenger side of the truck, and I could put 8 because I made them double decker. And what it is, if you envision, those dog boxes were built up, and then the mule's head and neck went over top of the dog boxes and over top of where the cab was.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. So the dog boxes were how tall again exactly?
20, right at 24. So they were 48 inches up to the top.
48 inches, and then the mule's head would go up and over top of that in the cab. Well, not in the cab,
and then
but in the enclosure for the mules. Yeah, that's not bad at all. You might even, were you a fellow to throw some hay up there from the kind of pick at on the way or in transit?
I didn't, only because I always usually fed on, before or after. I'd bring up there, and the reason being is because that nose, or the piece that, if you think of a cab over camper, where the bed is.
Yep.
That's where the mules' heads were. Well, when I jumped them out, a lot of times we had to stay, so that's where I slept. I throw my bedroll up there.
Gotcha. That's not okay. So I got one more question. I've seen the videos, and a lot of people have seen the videos about how you can get the mules to jump right in. Would they just flat-foot it from the ground up, or did they have a platform to kind of get in, or how did you do it?
That was all training, and old mule man told me, he said, don't ever ramp them.
Gotcha.
Because when I first went to go, I hadn't seen guys that had built like a ramp, and put the mule going up there, and he goes, you're going to create yourself a headache one day because they'll slip off, and then you'll never get them to go in.
Oh, that makes sense. It's not so much about spoiling them. It's about giving them a false sense of confidence, and then when they slide one hoof off, then they think something got them, or
Yep, and then you'll never get them in. And what I did is I had a little circle pen out in front of my place, and I let the mules teach themselves. So this kind of goes back to a little hound training and dog training.
Yeah.
I went out there and backed my truck up to the gate. I dug the trailer or the wheel portions down about 2.5 feet. So where the hitch and the back end of the mule box was sitting on the ground when I backed into it, because it was on a little bit of a hill.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd open the gate, and then I'd go throw some sweet feed and corn in there and just leave the mules out there. And pretty soon they're standing in the box.
That's right.
You know? And then I'd hang feed bags in there and feed them in there. And they're walking in. And then all I did is started throwing a little dirt in there and raising it up. And then, coming out, you can get them to come out flat-footed, a long ways. Those mules are athletic. Once they trust you and they know that they're going in for the right reasons, all I did is open the gate and pointed them towards it, and they jumped right in. And I had a rubber tie and tie them up inside the box because I was running two.
Mm-hmm.
So
on that, when they jump up into their slot, so you'd be able to load one. And then were they partitioned with the whole wall or just a little divider? Or
it was the whole back end would open up. So I give them plenty of room to jump in, so they ain't going to hit themselves or their sides.
There we go.
But because I tie the first one, I tie it to the side and make sure I push his butt over, and then get the other one, and then he'd jump in. But when you got where you were going, I'd always try to find a little ditch or a little bank to back up to. Because, we're talking that was 40 inches.
Yeah.
Jumping in and out.
Is the easy part.
So I tried to make it a little easier on my donkeys. Coming out, sometimes we didn't do it, but when I was going to load them back in, I'd back it up into a ditch or something just to drop it another 6-8 inches.
Okay, so when you are backing them out, let's say you got two in there, you can kind of do you just reach in and unclip the lead rope and let them, back out on their own, or do you go in there?
No, you can't back them out. Not when it's that high. They're not going to come out of their backing.
So there is enough room for them to turn around and come out face first. Okay, fantastic. That's always been a curiosity, man. I'm glad I got to answer that question. I've been thinking about it all day. I was like, I'm finally going to learn how the heck they got these things out of there. So all right, that's what I thought. I've gone and thought about it left, right, up, down, center. I'm like, how are they backing these donkeys out of there 40 inches off the ground or however far, and having them step down and then do it again? Yeah, I could always do it once.
Yeah. But, no, the single carriers that I've seen from a lot of the predator control guys, like their boxes and rigs, usually those guys do have a ramp, and they back them down that because it's a single.
Yeah.
And there's not enough room for them to turn around. But I built mine, you still built it pretty tight, but those donkeys, I didn't have real big ones. I had 900 pounders. So they could turn around in a pretty small space.
Yeah. And we're saying donkeys. We are saying donkeys, but they're mules, just to sort of confuse anybody. That's what I've always called them too, is donkeys. But
no, that's just most mule guys. I can't say most. I call them donkeys just because they're half donkey.
Yeah, that's right. All right, well, that's okay. Good. I got the mule thing out of the way. That's been killing me all day. I've been dying to find that out. I've just been jumping up and down until we got to that part in the talk here, But so two of the things we got that were really important, and I think everybody hits on, and they all got different ways of dealing with it, is the heat. Ventilation is key to you. It is with me too. And then weight, super important depending on the rig you're driving, Is there another thing, in your years of making them that you just would keep in mind the entire time? Maybe like the number of dogs you're going to put in it, or your latches, or.
Well, I always had a dual latch system as far as latch goes, because that's the first thing that's going to open. And whether, like when I built my dog boxes, I'd build them so if the door flung open for the most part, then there was the tailgate would keep it closed. Yeah. So you couldn't have an accident. When I had them on the sides, on my flatbeds where they come out, I'd always have a two latch system. So if one latch failed, or if I forgot to do it, And then the other thing is you build them so you make, the doors open, so if you're going down the freeway and the wind's blowing, they open to the rear of the truck. So that way, if they happen to pop open down the freeway, the wind's going to blow them shut, not blow them open.
Okay, I like that. That's something I've never even thought about. They might be unlatched for 100 miles of driving and not even know it because the wind's holding it down. As opposed to if it opens into the wind, it'll fire. Heck, the wind might tear it off of there going down the highway. There we go. See, that's what we're doing here. Yeah, now I got something. I'm taking notes over here. That's fantastic. What kind of double latches?
Different ones. Sometimes just a little thumb drops, and then you do it so it drops down so the gravity holds it in the bottom of the door. And then other ones I always like having, kind of a swivel set to where it folds in there and then you put a clip on it. So that way, it's really hard not to, do it right.
I just wanted to add a brief amendment here, you guys. This episode isn't even close to done. But for the sake of all mixed up's time, we're going to move this to the Patreon page and keep it ongoing with coyote dogs and pointers. So head on over to the Patreon page and check it out, you guys. All content in September is public. Hope to see you there.
All right. I got Chad Reynolds here. I'm talking to creator of Houndsman XP, Chris Powell. How you doing today, man?
Man, I'm doing good. We're over here in Virginia running some bears this week. So I'm getting after it, putting some dogs on the ground and putting some bears in the air.
Having some luck?
Yeah. We saw 3, caught 2 of them yesterday, and we were back to the truck by 10 o'clock in the morning. So that's a pretty good day.
Yeah, that'll do.
We've been on bears every day. We got our butts smoked today. Had a little 110-pound runner and just couldn't get him caught. He's still out there running around.
Yeah, the sour days just make the sweet days sweeter, though. So you got to lose it every now and then. That's right. Well, shoot. All right. I guess let's get into it. What we're talking about today is dream hunting rigs. That's to include, dog boxes, hunting truck, and trailering. If anything you have to share, I guess just so that everybody kind of knows what your environment is. What regions do you hunt your main targeted game, I guess? And then I can't wait to hear what you have to tell us.
Oh, my gosh. See, that's a trick question, Chad, because I need a rig that I can hunt coons in Indiana. I can hunt bear in here. I can hunt hogs in Louisiana or Texas. I can cat hunt out west. And, I've been through a lot of that stuff. So that's where I'm at. But mainly I'm looking at, colder temperature type areas, not a lot of intense heat. I don't go to places that's hot in the summertime because I don't like it unless it's Southwest with no humidity, and then it's fine.
Yep. I hear you. So like a multi-box is, a multi-setup rig, or do you specialize with one thing and then kind of get the other stuff to fit, or are you actually looking for something that should work universally?
One of those the dog box question, I think everybody has designed that dream box in their mind, had it built, and then 2 years later they thought, man, I wish I wouldn't have done that, or man, I wish I would have changed this one thing. It's a tough thing, and I think as we, or for my sake, it's like, man, this is going to work great. Then you get out west, and it's like, wow, that didn't work so great. And, when I first started hunting out west, I was just using my regular coon hunting box that I use back here. I had 4 grown hounds that pretty much lived off of the truck for a month and a half when I was out west, the first big trip I took out there. And I always wanted a better box and a more set up box and things like that. But I just procrastinated and didn't get the build made and stuff like that. But so when I started looking for a box that is multi-purpose for me, then I guess we'll start with the dog box.
Yeah.
The dog box that I had built for me was one that could be multifunctional. You've got, when you're going on long trips, you've always got storage issue, gear issues, things like that. you could pull a trailer everywhere you went, but a lot of the mountain roads don't, where are you going to turn that thing around?
That's right.
So, I was looking for something that was multifunctional. So I went with a slide in from Old South, designed it. It's a slide in box. I can put 6 hounds on each side if I need to. I'm normally only packing 4. So, but the reason I wanted a bigger box is a lot of times when you're bear hunting in the East here, you might be picking somebody else's dogs up, and you can put all your dogs on one side and keep their dogs on the other side. And I am more comfortable with that setup because I don't care how well your dogs get along. When you jam them all into a box together, the best way to avoid problems is never create them. So
that's correct. I agree.
Yeah. So for me, and even if the box is full and the weather permits, I've picked up as many as had 12 hounds on my rig before, and I've got them the other hounds tied on top, and bring them back. So my box is a slide in. It's a full bed. It's got a rig platform, and it's got a storage box that makes up the front rail of the rig platform. It's not ideal, but it's multifunctional for me. The top's insulated. It's got full slide outs down the side, and it's got 1-inch tubing down the side for the ventilation.
Okay.
I can take expanded metal and put in there, and for hot temperatures and things like that, or I can put the solid plates in it where it's totally protected. But with the bars, I haven't been doing the rig holes or the head holes on the dog box. I believe that that's a lot of our problems with these Garmin collars is dogs dragging their heads in and out of those rig holes.
Yeah.
And that's an expensive deal, man. I mean, you're looking at just repairs at least $125. A new collar's $400. So I've got away from the head holes. I don't really know that it fits my style. Heath and I are talking about this we just recently talked about this on a podcast about behavior in the box and things like that. And that's a whole different podcast, and you can listen to that one too. But I've got a certain reason why I don't want dogs barking in the box. If they're going to open and strike, I want them on the rig. So I don't do head holes. Dogs can rig out of the box without being on the rig. They're capable of doing that. And most of the time, the tracks that you really want to turn loose on, if they can't rig them out of the box, then you're going to have a rough time catching that game anyway. So
I got you. So how big are your holes that you say on the side? Just far enough to stick their nose out, or is it an little mesh?
They're probably 2 inches. The bars are 2 inches apart.
Okay.
So the expanded metal, I kind of got things mixed up there. When I had a box that had rig holes on it, when I'm going down the interstate, then I had expanded metal that I would push in there. So you still get all that airflow in hot temperatures. But you didn't have a bunch of dogs sticking their head out the side passing, running 70 miles an hour that wears a dog out. It's hard on them. They get bugs, debris, everything else. I had a lot of eye problems with, on long trips with rig holes in the side, just because of the debris and stuff. It seems like I was going through erythromycin like crazy and treating those eyes and rinsing them and stuff because they'd always have goopy eyes. It's just from road dust. So when I was traveling with a rig hole box, then I had expanded metal that would actually slide in on tracks and close that off.
Okay.
In the hot temperatures. So,
yeah, I like that. I kind of have the same thing. My dog box on the side, I got smaller holes than I like now. And the little panel that goes over top of it is it slides left and right. So that the main box has a hole big enough to stick their head through, and then the panel on the outside has another hole, and it has a little compression handle so that if, sometimes I'll have pups in there that could even get through the hole. So I could slide the window over so that it's only halfway and then lock it down. And I thought that was kind of a neat little add-on, But the mesh, I like your idea with the mesh. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, you just and so on my Old South when I had that box built, the panels that go on top that slide all the way full length into the thing,
Yeah.
I actually had them split halfway so that I can pull half of that panel out, and then wait, you're getting all the ventilation you want. And I also put a second track underneath in the lower half of the box, so they slide right in there, and then they just have retaining pins that go through the frame, so I can pull a full panel out, both sections of a full panel, open it all the way up, or I can just pull half of it out, and then to store it, instead of throwing it in the bed, beside the box or whatever, slides in its own track underneath. Some deal breakers for me on dog boxes is the old T-handle type handles that stick out. The old your grandpa had that camper. Well, yeah, the camper shell on the truck, and it's that handle.
Yeah,
that
right.
Sticks out. I like the folding T-handles that are recessed into the doors.
Mm-hmm.
Those are secure. A dog can't get them open because once those handles are pushed in, then the handle won't turn. So it's I've had some of those T-handle boxes. And a dog will learn to manipulate that if you don't remember to put your tailgate up. And then you've got a dog, you get back to the truck and it's like, where's the dog? And now you're tracking dogs and chasing dogs. So
yeah, and when it recesses in, like you're saying, I've had some boxes like that, and when they fold over and then fold down, they aren't going to rattle loose on a bumpy road either. I find some of those
exactly
that are mounted on the outside, they can just rattle open in time. If you're on a really hard road, but if they press down in, like you're saying, they're less inclined to, at least. That's for sure.
Right. The other deal breaker for me is an uninsulated top on the dog box.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of heat that metal is absorbing on top of that box, and a good insulated top on that thing, it's basically like them being in a shade tree if you've got plenty of ventilation on that thing. But lack of ventilation and lack of top insulation are deal breakers for me. I actually, a couple of years ago, I was at a large event, and a guy lost seven dogs in a dog box, and he thought somebody had poisoned him. And when I looked at his dog box, I knew what happened. They had asphyxiated in that dog box. It wasn't hot out. It was surprising that it happened, but it was so tight. The dogs were wet. He put them in there after they'd done some work, and he lost them. Lost them all.
That's a tough way to go too.
Yeah.
That's no good. So I'm hearing ventilation, and that's key. That can't be pushed enough. Insulated top, and secure latches. I guess some big takeaways. And then big enough that, you possibly, especially I like running with company too. I like to go by myself, but I really enjoy having a buddy with me with his own dogs. So big enough dog box that you could probably stuff all of yours in one side to keep your buddy's obnoxious tree fighting dog off of yours.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. They're the ones that always have the tree fighters. It's never yours.
My dogs have never done a single thing wrong in their life. I swear.
That's right. Yeah, they're like our kids. If there's growling in the box, you always look at your buddy and say, hey, you need to do something about that.
Right. So you like a slide in. Now, is that with a bottom? Do you like a bottom in your box, an actual enclosed box?
I did make this one with a bottom on it. The box that I have on my side-by-side does not have a bottom in it. Mm-hmm. If I had a box that was very open and susceptible to weather and rain and different things like that, I would probably opt away from the bottom. However, the way Old South builds their box, they just use strip welds down there, so they drain anyway. Yeah. So I can get away with the bottom in this with a bottom in this box and get plenty of drainage out of it.
Okay, I like that a lot. Historically, I've always had boxes without a bottom. Mm-hmm. Back when I was growing up hog hunting, I always had them without a bottom because the dogs would come and go, and you always swapped them out, and it made it real easy to clean out. You could throw a hose in there and it would wash out real easy. Yeah. But those types of boxes had to be secure to the bed of the truck, or you'd stomp toes. And I've had that happen where some bolts broke and it stomped on toes. And the new one I have now isn't it, like you're saying, an enclosed box, and I had bolts break on that, and right now it's rattling around in the back of my box, and it makes it a little noisy and maybe a little less comfortable for the dogs, but I don't have to worry about toes, and that's really nice. Toes aren't going to get pinched, stuck, anything, So
yeah, you go hit a bump and the whole box comes up. That's a problem. And even my slide-in box. So my over-the-rail box, what I used on those were those C-clamps that you use on camper shells.
That's right.
And attach them right to the top rail. You can access them through the ventilation holes, or the rig holes are real easy to put in and out. Mm-hmm. And then on this box, I actually put tie downs on the outside of the box, and I use turnbuckles, double hook turnbuckles, and just crank those dudes down, and that box stays right where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I've seen those with the old South system. Those look nice. They're not moving an inch, and they're nice and secure. And that's who made those, right? That's the box.
Yeah, that's whose box. I'm running an Old South box in there right now.
That's a pretty neat system.
Yep.
So, well, all right. We got your pros, and I guess that kind of leads into some of the things, your cons. Some of the things you don't like is the unsecure latches and heat and ventilation. Is there any little fancy bells and whistles? Like if I gave you $100,000 right now, what would you add to your box? What little fancy?
If I had if I had $100,000, this is what I would build. I would buy a 2021 or older Toyota Tundra, because I don't like the new Tundras. I love my Tundra. It does great in the mountains. And it would be being pulled behind the Tundra would probably be a Tacoma. No, I'm kidding. I love Tacomas too. I've hunted out of both. This Tundra has been very nice to me. It's been very good to me, and I like it. Mm-hmm. But I would strip the bed off of it and put a flat bed on it.
Yeah.
And then from there, what I would do is all of my, I would have doors down the side over the wheels where your bed sides would be, individual doors, and each there would be compartments all the way down the side, and each compartment would have a bar door with a slide in that I could close it off and open up a rig hole or a head hole if I wanted to do that. Mm-hmm. Those are slick boxes, man. When you start thinking about that, so you got that box mounted on that, it would have a rig rail on the top. I'd probably put a storage box in front of the rig rail, probably flush, so that I've still got, I've got a good storage spot there. And then I'd put the rig rail on top so I could still haul coolers and different things on top of that. But each individual hole like that, I saw this set up at APA Breed Days several years ago. A guy had a Toyota Tacoma, and he could select which dog you wanted. There was no fighting at the back of the box. Or wasn't telling anybody to get back. If you wanted your old dog and you wanted to put your rig dog on top, you didn't have to try to keep 4 young dogs back. You just pull the dog out. If you want to drop a couple young dogs or feed a couple young dogs into the race, you just open their individual doors and boom, there they are. It was slick.
That sounds nice.
Yeah.
You see the bird dog guys with those, and their dogs couldn't be. Well, most of the ones I've dealt with, at least, couldn't all be crammed in on top of each other. But yeah, I've always wanted something like that myself. You just need enough. I like to be able to carry at least 8 personally.
Yeah.
Even if I don't bring 8.
Well, if you had a full size, I saw a box today mounted on a Ranger flatbed. It was the same type of box. It was an older box, but it had individual sides mounted on a flatbed, and the guy could simply select which dogs he wanted out of the side. Yeah. And he was had 4 holes on each side.
That's pretty neat. Neat. Then you could go crazy with what type of door, guillotine doors, left to right opening, or I've seen little bat wing doors that are pretty neat too.
Yeah.
But all right, well, I think you got us squared away. Is there anything else that you think we might have missed that you wanted to get out there?
Did you want to talk about trucks?
Yeah, definitely. Trucks or the trailering. Yeah, without a doubt. You prefer a Titan, but you'll stand a Tacoma, you said?
No, not a Titan, a Tundra.
Tundra, my mistake.
Yeah.
My mistake.
Yeah, I'm not driving any Nissan junk.
Yeah. One of my guys has a Titan. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. No, I've first Tundra I've had. It'll take a real beating. The thing I really like about that Tundra, it's a TRD off-road edition.
Uh-huh.
And so the center console, the gear shifts in the center. And when I put that thing down and drive, I can push that gear shift to the left and put it in sport mode. So when I'm in the mountains and I'm crawling around in the mountains, I can shift it up and down. I can keep it in low. It shifts real easy. I mean, it's a selector deal. You just bump it and you push it to second gear. You pull it down in first gear, and saves on brakes, saves on you get the compression braking off the engine. You can really creep, and you can just bump it up. And when you hit the flat spots, and it'll still pull good even in third gear up a pretty good grade. But I've been impressed with this Tundra. It's a little bit big on some of these tight mountain roads and stuff. And I'm good when I'm driving, but I don't like riding with people. I don't trust other people to drive me with big drop-offs and stuff.
You and me both.
Yeah. So, my buddy Larry Anderson up there, he thought I was checking. I was like, I'm not afraid of the road. I'm afraid of you driving on this road, but it's a little bit big, and it's not as handy as a Tundra or as a Tacoma. But man, that's a pretty good truck. I had a 17 Chevy that left me stranded and let me down, and did some research and come to find out that they already know that there's a torque converter problem in those transmissions, and it blew apart, on me coming back from Montana. And so I thought, well, I've been wanting to get a Tundra for a while, so I went and bought one.
Tundra. Yeah, and know, and that. Always a good rig. I'm a Tacoma man myself. I
love those trucks.
Yeah. Worst comes to worst, you knock the bumper in, you can get out and straighten it back out with your hands. That's something I found with my little Tacoma.
My buddy Evan Workman, he's got a lot. He does a lot of farm work and different stuff, and he could have a side by side if he wanted one, but he just keeps a Tacoma. And I've seen him drive that thing in places that would make me nervous to drive my side by side. I mean, they're handy. They're just so daggone handy. If I had everything, I would have a Tundra, a Tacoma, and I'd have a 3/4 ton truck. Mm-hmm. But I don't have that ability to do that.
Yeah. Out here, I have a 4-wheeler that I don't really hunt much off of. I have the side by side that I do some stuff when I'm falling down into the canyons. But I'm finding that I just prefer, because I don't really like the box setup I have on my side by side as much, but I'm finding that my Tacoma is really working out for me really nice. As long as once I got past the point of no return where I did not care anymore about what happened to it. It like a whole new world opened up for me. Once I did not mind anymore. I know there's a tree behind me. I'll back up until I feel it, and then I'll go forward. But
that same buddy of mine, Evan Workman over in West Virginia, he told me, he's like, Chris, you either got to love your truck or you got to love your dogs.
Yeah,
can't do both.
Yeah. All right. Well, I agree with that. Well, that brings us to the next thing, trailering then, with that Tundra, you definitely could pull behind. I guess if you're not doing the side-by-sides, there might not be much to trailer for you. But do you have any opinions, any strong thoughts on that?
Buy a tandem trailer, tandem axle trailer. I was coming back from, it was the same trip. I mean, this was a trip from hell coming back from Montana. And I was coming back in late October. I came down, went through Jackson, Wyoming, dropped down to Rock Springs, Wyoming, and then I was trying to avoid a snowstorm up on 90 and hit an ice storm on 80. And 80 is a death trap anyway. And so they had the interstate shut down. I pulled off and got cold that night, stayed in a motel, waited for them to open it up, started the next day. And as we're creeping along on a sheet of ice on 80, I heard something. It was like clunk, clunk, clunk. I look in my mirror, my wheel on my trailer. I've got a single axle trailer, mind you. And that wheel is just sitting there wobbling back and forth. I'd lost some lug nuts somewhere.
Oh.
And now I'm wallering out the holes in the wheel, so the wheel's ruined.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so lucky I had a spare on the trailer, but the thing that I didn't have were the lugs. I'd sheared off some lugs, so I had to unhook on the side of 80 in a blizzard after an ice storm, and I had to go find lugs to replace in those wheels. I had the tools to do it, I just didn't have the lugs, and so I had to leave all my junk sitting on the side of Interstate 80. I was surprised I didn't get back and a semi had not scattered that junk all over the side of the road out there, man. So buy a tandem trailer.
And then you get a freebie then. If you lose the wheel, you got 3 more. You're all right.
Yeah. You can get that thing off the road and get it to a safe place, because I was not in one, I can tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, that about wraps us up there. I can't think any other questions I have. You kind of hit on everything. Ventilation's really important no matter where you are. If it's hot out, you want to keep the dogs cool, and the more ventilation you have, the better they can smell.
I think ventilation's, a hard-working dog, Chad, even 40 to 60 degrees, still needs ventilation. Their cooling system doesn't work like ours does. They need to be able to get that fresh air and ventilation. You get 4 dogs in a box, and they're in there panting. You're producing a lot of carbon monoxide, and if they don't have good ventilation, I don't care what it is, you're running a risk.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I've lost more dogs to heat than anything else. And I haven't lost a lot of dogs, don't get me wrong, but between, hogs and bear and lion and rattlesnakes and car accident, everything, heat has been left its mark more than anything. So I'm right there.
Yeah, I agree. It's a big risk. Yep. Yeah, thanks for having me on and let me share my thoughts with you.
Well, thanks for sharing with us.
I'm a gear freak, so anytime I'm out and I see something pretty slick, I'll look it over and then I'm always planning how I could change my current setup. So there's always some great ideas out there.
Yeah, we get into new things, or we see something else and we add it and then it changes something else. So yeah, it's always a work in progress. And
yep, for sure.
But yeah, thanks for everything you shared with us. I sure do appreciate it. And
you bet.
All right, today we're going to talk about hunting rigs for falcons and hawks and the birds of falconry. I have Tyler Slayton with us today. He's done a few podcasts. He's pretty used to talking about the sport. We're going to review just the different ways that we, get these birds to the field, hunt around with them. So transportation and just the logistics of it. Tyler's been hunting with falcons for about 10 plus years, and he's had a bunch of different birds. Like what all types of raptors have you hunted with, man?
Mostly Harris hawks, red tails, primarily goshawks. I had a good stint with kestrels. I did a brief stint with large falcons, hybrids, Merlins. That's pretty much it.
Pretty much, yeah. That's a lot of stuff, man. Yeah. So you've hit pretty much everything in there. Your Harris hawks and red tails and your falcons and your accipiters. So that's
just no eagles.
No eagles.
Not cool enough.
Yeah, we'll work on that one. So I guess like we've talked in some of the other segments about just different ways to get the hounds to the field and optimize their ability to put game on the tailgate or up the tree, and that's what we're after here. So I know there's a bunch of different ways. I've dealt with a bunch of different ways with my birds as well. I guess first thing we could talk about is the hood, isn't it? I mean, just the actual hood. Some people call it a hat or a helmet, but it's the sleeve that goes over the bird's head and like blocks out the light, and like makes it so you can transport them around. Did you do that? I know you did that with your kestrel, didn't you?
Yeah, my kestrel's hooded. They hooded, or I had a magnetic perch that I mounted to the dashboard, and they would ride around on the dashboard underneath the mirror, and they'd cause a lot of second looks at red lights.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's gosh. See, we just thought of that. That's really neat. So that was like that wasn't really a block perch, was it? That was kind of like a.
No, it was 2 pieces of PVC pipe mounted to like a heavy duty magnet that I had the other receiving piece of the magnet on the dash so I could take it on and off.
That's pretty cool. So you'd put, your kestrel, was it Debo is in this little tiny kestrel, right? This like 80-gram bird. Had the name of Debo. So you'd put Debo on up there with the hood on to get him basically to the place where you wanted to begin hunting.
Yeah, to and from, and then it helped with weight control. I mean, they're such little birds that their metabolism slows down when they're hooded.
Right. So I just want to paint this picture. So Tyler's in his hunting truck with a tiny little bird on a perch on his dashboard with a hood on its head, and you just cruise through the gas station and McDonald's drive-through or whatever with a little bird on your dashboard.
Yeah, especially St. Louis, where folks don't really interact with wildlife, so they'd see a living animal in your truck and freak out.
Right. So then when you'd actually hunt them, did you hunt them off the same perch just without the hood, like there on your dashboard, or did you carry him on the glove? Well,
it depends. If he was a little hot, he wouldn't stay there. He would fly into the window and try to like get out really fast and just try to botch slips. So I would hold his jesses and keep him on my left hand and drive with my right.
Mm-hmm.
But if he had already caught a few that day, he would calm down and he'd ride it better. And then you could roll down the window when you needed.
Okay. So if his weight was a little high, he wasn't as compliant or tolerant of his situation. And then he'd start the hunt when you weren't ready for it, or maybe get in the back of the truck is what you're saying. He not be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. He would fly circles around the truck trying to get to birds before optimal time.
Gotcha. And then, you lower your window and then he's sitting on the glove. Let's say he was a little anxious. So you'd have him ride on the glove. And then as you got, to the right distance, you'd wing him out the window going, how fast would you guys be going?
He would leave the window anywhere from 30 to 60. If you started going over 60 with a crosswind, he'd go into the stratosphere. He seemed to like 45 the most.
That's pretty cool. So this is a tiny bird, like smaller than a crow.
About the size of a pack of cigarettes with legs.
There you go. Yeah, or like the starlings.
Yeah.
Just about starling size or slightly bigger?
Gram for gram.
Okay. All right, and then that was actually your main quarry with that bird too. Like, starlings and I know he's caught, yeah.
He's caught other stuff.
Yeah.
The goal was starlings.
Starlings, yeah. So you're cruising down the road. He's on the gloves. Here comes a setup where the bird's sitting just off the road in a good position, and you're going like 45 miles an hour, and you flick him out the window. And then explain that, break that down for us, and then we'll get back to the rigs. I'm really interested, but break that down. How's that work?
So you'd roll down the window, and he'd tuck his wings like a little torpedo and lawn dart him. And usually starlings would wait for the last second to kind of juke and jive, and that's when he would open his wings and his tail and that's where all the maneuvering happens, that last like 2 feet. But generally it was like a 40-yard lawn dart until that last 2 feet.
That's
and he's going like 45, 50. So he was cooking.
And then how many would you catch a day with him?
Anywhere from a slow day was like 3, a good day was 10, and then legendary days were like 13 to 15.
That's really cool. And these are, of course, invasive species, so you could hunt them.
No season, no limit.
Yeah, year round and as much as you want, no back limit. That's pretty cool. But all right, back to the topic. The hood, and then that shelf perch, that little perch that you had up on your dashboard. That's how you got him around. But let's stick with the hood for a minute. There's a lot of people that live and die by a hood. There's other people that don't want anything to do with it, the traditional hoods. I know it's real big with long wingers. I know with my Falcon, I transport her to and from the field, with a hood on, but she'd just be in the passenger seat on like what we call a block perch. It was something a little shelf with a diameter about the size of like a cantaloupe, about that size. But he just sit on that perch in the passenger seat, and it had like a little, I don't know, like a round kitty litter box that was underneath it. So if you ever had to mute or, poop, it would go into that and not onto my truck. But then once we started hunting, the hood would come off and we'd go, but I didn't actually hunt from any of that. But the hood works for me as well. I believe most of your other birds, did you just use like the hawk boxes with them, or?
Yeah, goshawks I transported in hawk boxes. Harris hawks, I've had some that hood and ride on a cadge like a falcon, and then I've had others that just like their box.
Right. Well, explain the hawk box. So, break that down for us real quick. What?
It's essentially, it's like a dog box with a perch through the middle of it. They're just different dimensions. They're tall and skinny, whereas a dog box is kind of more rectangular.
Right. Okay, so that's just something you open the door, and then you got your bird on the glove, and you want to transport them without them.
It's got louvered vents to keep it dark.
There you go. Okay, yeah. So we don't want them pooping all over the car, so you can put them in there, and they'll empty out in that box on some like newspaper or something on the bottom. But you can kind of stuff them in there, and that's what you're saying, either with or without the hood. And what are the reasonings for that?
It's simpler. I mean, you can train them to fly into it. You can bring it in and out of the vehicle. Birds are 100 times more susceptible to heat than dogs are. Like they're not going to just chill out in an aluminum dog box in the bed. They need to come into the hotel with you. They need to go into your buddy's house with you. You don't park anywhere, not in the shade.
Gotcha. And all right, so you could just open up the hawk box, and some birds will just fly right in there, turn around, and you can close the door, and it's more or less dark in there. You're saying, right?
It's essentially dark.
Okay, and then others you'll hood. You could even put the actual hood on the bird's head, and then ease them into the perch inside the box. And I've even seen some without the doors on it, so it's just like two bookends. So you could put the actual hood on the bird's head, but because he's got the hood on, he can't see. He's not going to fly around the vehicle, but you could just set him on on the perch in a box without the front. That just keeps stuff in your truck from falling on him.
I think I've got one of those. They called it the mute chute. I think Todd Coleman made them. I had one for a red tail.
And that's kind of a halfway, a 50-50 version.
It's a box with the sides missing, essentially.
Mm-hmm. That just keeps them pointed in the right direction. So when they mute, all right. Well, before we go any further, break that down there, because I've heard mute, slice, all these that's one of the main reasons for these transportation devices. They keep, because unlike a dog, you can teach it to go before or after. The birds kind of just they go when they go.
Well, technically, it's Falcons mute and Hawks slice. So
okay, all right. Is there anything different?
Most Falcons poop down directly underneath them, whereas hawks shoot it in a thin line behind them. So goshawks, my goshawk would shit 6 feet in a straight line. It's not something you would let loose in your vehicle.
So they could be in the back seat and it could hit the windshield.
He could be against the wall and shit on the ceiling.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
It's just not something you just let rip in your car.
Right, and there's reasonings for that, right? I mean, because falcons are...
It all comes down to where they nest.
Yeah, so the falcons are up on a cliff face, right? Hanging off the side of this giant stone a few hundred feet in the air.
Yeah.
And they just kind of have to back their butt up to the edge, right?
They walk to the edge and they crap off the cliff, whereas a goshawk lives in a very tall pine bow nest in a pine tree. So they have to shit up and out over the lip of the nest so that they're not living in their own feces. They're not like pigeons. They like a clean environment.
Okay, so they're firing, and they're not just firing it straight out like you say. So they actually want a good an arc. They wanted to go up over the tree branches and then out, and then who cares what happens over there or who happens to be walking by.
Think of the trajectory of a field goal being kicked.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, okay. So there we go. Now that we have this beautiful picture painted in everybody's mind, that's that's one of the reasons we do different types of setups. Like if it's outside, you could just put
You would never see 3 goshawks in the back seat of a truck with hoods on. That vehicle would be toxic waste by the end of the week.
Right. And if you're outside, who cares? But if you're in the vehicle, you kind of need a way of containing that, So that's one of the main reasons for the box, is it keeps the bird there and not flapping around the vehicle when you're in downtown traffic or something, right?
Whereas like my Giroplo, you could put a napkin under it. It's all of it would be contained on that napkin.
Yeah. All right, because that's a Falcon. That's a long wing,
It's a hybrid.
Yeah, so they're gonna mute, and that's like just dropping it straight down. Okay. So I mean, that's basically why I've always used a hawk box, right? I mean, you keep the bird contained, relatively calm. If they get upset, at least they're in the box. They're not landing on your head in the vehicle while you're driving through, traffic or anything. So should anything go wrong, they're in the box. The poop's in the box. The bird's in the box. They really can't get into too much trouble in there.
Yeah, other than feather damage occasionally, but
right. Yeah, I know there's sometimes they'll make the perches to where the bird can't go around the little perch they're on because they can tie their leash up in it.
Yeah, and I don't even, with my goshawks, I didn't even keep a leash on in the box.
Okay, so they just had
before I went anywhere, I would put telemetry on the bird and take its leash off, and then my bird was ready to go, but there was no leash.
Gotcha. They just had the jesses, which are the tiny little strings people see hanging off the bird's anklets. They have little anklets around their cuff, around their legs, down at the bottom by the feet, and they have like short little strings on either side. They call them jesses, so that way you have something to grab a hold of, just like a dog collar, I guess. All right, so we got the regular hood. And we could talk all day about just the regular hoods. There's all kinds of different styles. There's some of them that you could buy for like 50 of them for $1 a pop from the Middle East. And then there's others that are thousands of dollars, aren't they? I mean,
yeah, like the collector's ones made with sage grouse feathers and badger hair and all sorts of fancy stuff. And there's ones with paintings on the sides of them.
Yeah.
I've got that one it's got sharp tail, sage grouse, and prairie chicken feathers on it.
Do they actually have a name for those where you start to make them out of catches that you've made with the bird, or? I don't know.
If there is a name, I don't know it.
Yeah, neither. But then, so you can, so with the hoods, you can get like the factory made assembly line type stuff that's pretty good. And there's, you can get custom ones too, right? I mean,
yeah, I've had ones with like yellow stingray panels made with squirrel hair that squirrels have caught on them. I've had, what else? I've had them made with ducks I've caught.
And that, that's kind of unique because it's not like you could exactly stop by like a PetSmart or a Petco and.
No, you got to know another falconer that makes them.
That or make them yourself, right?
Never again.
Not so fun?
No. I think I put like 9 hours into making one of them, and it looked like absolute dog crap.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not very artistic, so I can relate there. Now, like, all right, so what about setups where you're taking, because I know some long ringers bring their Falcon and a dog or two, and I've seen these really nice setups in the back of a truck where they'll have everything in the back of like a Tacoma or just any kind of hunting
any
truck.
falconry meet you go to, you'll see 15 to 30 Tacomas with camper shells with a 2-hole dog box with essentially it looks like a handrail with carpet or turf on it, and there'll be like 2 to 4 Falcons on that in the back with the dogs.
Okay, and those are generally hooded, or
those are all going to be hooded.
Okay, and they just ride in the back on this little rail, huh?
Yeah, it's like a fence post with some perching material on it, essentially.
Yeah, that's that like AstroTurf stuff, like the stuff where you see like an RV, set up where somebody would like roll out the little fake grass carpet,
Yeah, I mean, I've seen them use everything. Like Chingrin's has it looks like a Persian rug on it.
That's fancy. There you go. Now you're making real money when your birds sit on a Persian rug. That's kind of fancy. Huh. None of these are actually hunted out of. This is all just transportation, I guess, right? I mean, getting the bird to the field so that you can, then take them out and take them hunting, right?
Yeah, one of the few I've seen where it's hunted out of, what's his name? Sean Derrick, he's got a ATV with an alum line dog box, but 2 of the dog box holes were converted into like bird boxes. So there's perches in there, so you can transport 2 birds and a pile of beagles.
So it kind of looks just like a single dog box or something with like a perch at the bottom third or something, like a baseball bat size.
I guess
dowel.
Yeah, I guess you could talk about the cadges they use on the moors in Europe.
Cadge, huh?
It looks like a big square wooden table with a hollow middle where they put like 6-10 falcons on it, and some unlucky peasant carries it for all these peoples who are going to fly their birds. Because they can't drive out across those moors that they hunt red grouse on, or willow ptarmigan.
Okay, so hold on. Let me fact check this with you. I've heard before that that's actually where the term caddy came from. Was cash. Have you heard that?
I'm gonna look.
All right. Well, we're gonna.
I don't got a Jamie, so I gotta look it up.
All right. Let's check it out. But what he's saying with the cash is, it'll be just a 2x4 frame, just like you were to frame out a wall. It's just maybe 2 feet in the front and 2 feet in the back with like 3 feet going down either side. And there might be, you actually stand in the center of this, and there might be some suspenders going from the front to the back so that you have something to help you hold this up. And he's saying back in the day, or even maybe sometimes now, you have an unlucky fellow that would, put this system on and kind of balance 2 or 3 birds in the front, 2 or 3 in the back. And then they'd have hoods on and they'd be tied to this unit. And then they go walking out through the middle of this field.
Yeah.
And,
no, you are right. The term caddy comes from the person carrying falcons on a cadge.
Because I kind of get, I've always seen this idea about, the golfers now. You have like, let's just say Tiger Woods or whoever, he's wanting to golf this next hole, and you got the caddy with, his set of clubs, right?
They used to call them cadgers. They were usually older falconers who carried the birds on the cadge.
Huh. Yeah. So Tiger Woods comes up to do this next hole, and he may look to his caddy and say, "Hey man, what do you recommend? You know this field the best, And he's like, "I recommend the 9-iron or whatever." And he even takes the club out of the little club box, like the bag.
Oh, yeah.
The golf bag, takes the hood off, right? The little hood on the golf club, and then hands the club to the golfer. And I guess it's kind of similar, right? To like how the cadge with falconry is used, like the nobility would be riding his horse, and he'd have some peasant guy carrying all his birds who'd probably know the field really well, and he'd make recommendations, right? Like, oh, this there's some grouse here. This would be a good spot for the long wing or something, right? And then take the hood off and hand it up to his nobility. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much into it, but there's a lot of similarities,
Yeah, I mean, well, it says it was the older falconers, so maybe they were giving advice to the young falconers on,
right?
Hey, don't flush right now. Wait till your bird's more overhead.
Yeah,
your dog's a piece of junk. Who knows?
yeah. So yeah, cadge. I totally forgot about those. Yeah, that's neat. So I mean, back to that other question we were talking about, like it's mainly transport to get out to the field. Even this cache, this is like transport off-roading. That's at that point, it's somebody's packing around a bunch of birds on foot so that you can go out for the day, because you can't drive a vehicle out there in the moors. I guess it's all soggy out there, right? It's just wet.
Very wet, very swampy.
Okay.
It's pristine habitat. Like if you were to drive across it, you'd ruin it.
Okay. Can you think of anything that they use while hunting? Any kind of, like, because I'm trying to draw parallels with the way we hunt. Like if I'm rigging my bear hounds, they all have their heads stuck out of the dog box.
I mean, there's people that roll side by side doing abatement with perches on top,
and the birds free without a hood, just riding on the rig? Just
Yeah, they come in. I mean, like look at Raoul and stuff.
Okay, and you say abatement, so that's getting rid of like nuisance birds at like a farm or something, or
Yeah, like blueberries, cherries. I've personally done grapes. I did it out of an SUV, but
right?
Harris hawkers roll around with T-perches, carrying around 2-3 Harris hawks at a time in a field.
What's a T-perch exactly?
It's like a painter's pole with a piece of PVC pipe on the end that's parallel to the ground with some turf on it.
So just a big long stick you hold up in the air for the bird to sit on?
Yeah, and you're giving birds elevation, and you're allowing 2 to 3 birds to be perched on the same surface, whereas I don't know about you, but I'm not fitting 3 Harris hawks on my left hand while I'm hunting.
No.
Nor do I want to.
No, that could get heavy. So you stuff them all up there, they all ride, and you kind of just hold the stick up in the air and you walk around, and your dog flushes a rabbit, and
yeah, you kind of march around like a guidon bearer.
Okay. And they all just explode off of there and start chasing?
Yeah, explode as much as a Harris hawk.
Right. Fair enough. Huh. All right. Oh, I really didn't, I guess can't really think of any other ways they hunt with them. It's the glove, right? I mean, they're either up in the air on their own, flying around looking for something to catch, or they're on like a T-perch. And we talked about, how like some side-by-sides might have a perching setup on top of them. But like with your goshawk, hash brown, he mainly hunted off the glove. I mean, that was your hunting rig for him more than anything. It was just your glove, right?
Yep, my left hand.
Right. And what did he weigh?
He was about 650 grams, which sounds like nothing, but you extend your left arm out as high as you can and as far as you can with a 650 gram weight, and then walk 12 miles a day.
Right. Chasing your dogs, going uphill, downhill.
And anytime you fall, you keep that left hand steady like a waitress carrying drinks or a waiter carrying your food.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm not envious of eagle people at all. I don't want to carry a 9-pound eagle.
Yeah, because that's their hunting rig. Is again back to the same left hand. What do they weigh? Like 10 pounds?
Males are like 9, and the females are like 14.
Okay, so you got like a 14-pound weight.
Can you imagine holding a 14-pound dumbbell out extended?
So 90 degrees out from your body, almost like you got your arms spread out like their wings.
And if you hold it close, you're going to get whacked in the face with a wing when they leave the glove.
So you got to hold it way out there. And then they don't want you just bouncing them around either. You got to kind of.
No, yeah. Hash brown, he'd get salty if I was not a stable gyro for him to ride on.
So it's not, okay, so I'm wrong. It's not the glove. It's you.
Yeah.
You are the hunting rig. Your feet are the suspension system. The dog box more or less is your glove because you
go
can't
up
get away
and
from
down
that.
hills, but your arm stays at the same height. Stable.
I got this new image in my head that you're rigging for quail from now on. When you put your falcon, your goshawk on your glove and walk around, you're gonna be.
My goss is riding the rigging rails.
Yeah, riding the rigging rails, man.
You guys had me and Yubi riding the rigging rails the other night.
Yeah, we were out looking for coyotes. Trying to decoy in some coyotes.
It's cold and slippery up there.
It is, but we didn't clip you in. We thought you knew what you were doing. We didn't clip you in. So next time we'll clip you in so you don't so we don't dump you off. But yeah, I can't really think of anything else with them. That's the main thing. I guess just break it down for us. What exactly are you looking for with a hawk box? Because that's what you would imagine most people today, most falconers today.
You want sturdy, light, easy to clean, no texture, no porous surfaces. You want dark.
And that's just for sanitation so that it's easier to like spray out with bleach or whatever.
You don't want to get in there and have to scrub. So like a smooth powder coated box where you can just pressure wash it clean. You want it dark, but you want it ventilated. You want it to stay cool, but you don't want it to be heavy. It's an art. I mean, people bailed them from everything from hefty trash, or not hefty, brute trash cans to chloroplast to aluminum. I've seen welded plastic PVC ones. I've seen steel ones, which I don't recommend. Aluminum.
And chloroplast, that's that like,
So
it's like corrugated plastic, like the Vote for Pedro signs or
all
whatever.
the political signs.
Okay, those are, all right, that's chloroplast. You just cut those to fit, fold them over, glue them together, and they're like super light then, right?
Exactly.
They just blow away in the wind with the bird inside if you're not paying attention, though.
Yeah, they just tend to be kind of flimsy. Good. I've got a nice aluminum one that's powder coated.
All right, so sanitation, we want to be able to spray it out and keep it clean so that the bird doesn't get sick, but at the same time, just ease of cleaning, relatively dark. I know some of them let in more light than others. I know some people are like diehard, keep all the light out. I know didn't the forest boxes that you used have little light admittance holes where they weren't seeing the light directly, but
I always wanted one, but I don't know. I was never bougie enough to drop $900 on one. My roommate had one, and yeah, it had like a drop-in door, and then when you lifted it, there was like vertical bars, and like it looked like a little prison.
Again, just like the dog boxes, I guess. So if it's lion season, you're way up. You're trying to get to the mountain, you slide in a little panel to block it off, and when you get there, you slide that out, and they can see and smell, but can't get out. Huh. And then I get temperature. I know that's super big for us with the dogs, like keeping them warm. So like, trying to prevent heat from getting in, or ventilation fans, right? Same there. We don't really have very many of those in hound rigs, but I've seen some in transport boxes where they have little ventilation fans, right?
Yeah, a lot of bird dog rigs have them. But yeah, your hawk box has fans.
Yeah. I like the fans. Then I don't have to worry about it, because they get too warm, then they
panic, and then they die.
Yeah, and then that's worst case scenario. And even on the softer side, if it's gets warm in there, then they don't lose weight like they're supposed to, and then they're gonna be fat when you get them out and try to hunt them, and they don't want to catch anything. They're not hungry enough. So that's why I like the fans a whole lot. But then I've even heard of some people like plugging little AC units in there. So they'll have like a window unit in the back of their truck, and then the ventilation side, the blowing side, they'll actually pipe into the hawk box to blow cold AC air on their birds. I've never had anything like that, but I've heard of it. I know some of the falcon racing people do that. The people that just race their birds don't actually hunt them. Like they'll try and make them they won't freeze them. These birds actually like the cold, but they'll bring down the temperature down to like 45 degrees or something like that right before they bring them out to race them. Well, what's your favorite out of all of them? Like if you could have, like, if I gave you $50,000 right now to make a hawk box, you got any ideas? You got a fantasy box here? You'd set up?
I'd have like a 5-hole dog box on the back of the truck, and then the one spot where a hawk box slid in and clicked in.
Okay, so you could take it off and put it back.
So I can take it in and out, but then it's on the exterior of the truck. And then I'd want like an infrared camera so that I could see what the hell's going on while I'm driving down the highway.
Okay, because it's going to be dark in there. I get it now. So you're going to see the heat.
Well, or, I can see in the dark, and then, that would be my ideal. Because, I mean, that's my biggest concern, honestly, is traveling with a hawk is the biggest pain in the rear, as opposed to, like, the dogs, man. You stuff them in some dog boxes and go. Whereas a hawk, I mean, they only want to be in that box for so long. Some of them, at least goshawks.
Not many caves in their natural environment. Right?
Yeah, whereas like a Harris hawk, like I had one named Azula for 6-7 years. She would live in the box if you let her, but Hash Brown, I mean, 6 to 8 hours, he was starting to do cartwheels. Like he wanted to kill some stuff.
And then that's bad, not just because they're bouncing around, but then get their feathers in the poop or break a feather, right? Or,
yeah, they'll break a feather, they get poop on them, and you're trying to take nice pictures of this bird, and it's got crap on it, and then when they come out of the box after they've been bouncing around, they're in like the worst mood ever, and mood matters with a bird. They're unlike dogs. You get a pissed off bird when you roll into where you're about to hunt. It is not going to perform how you think it's going to perform.
So click in and out on the outside of the box and an infrared camera. Can come up with anything fancy? You don't like that AC system we talked about earlier?
Exhaust
maybe?
fan. AC kind of worries me. I don't know, moisture.
Oh, hey, there you go. I never considered that. You don't like the moisture. They like dry.
They like dry. Asper grows in humid environments.
And that's a sickness the birds can get, right?
Yeah, aspergillosis, or I pronounced that wrong. But it's basically something that grows in moist air that will kill a hawk. It will never really bother humans. It won't bother dogs too much, but it will kill a hawk.
Just like a mold or a mildew kind of. They inhale the spores and they just it's over for them.
They stop eating. They get fluid in their lungs, and then they aspirate and die.
So a lot of it's pretty similar, temperature regulation, you don't want it too hot for your dogs, the birds, ventilation, and just keep them contained, keep them safe. Don't mash toes, don't let them bounce around too much and hurt themselves. So yeah, it's all pretty much similar, pretty much the same thing. And you got T-perches or yourself for the hunt and rig when you're actually out in the field. But yeah, all right. Well, I mean, are we missing anything? I mean, that's just about everything I can think of.
I think we about covered it all. I mean, the stuff I've seen in the Middle East where they converted entire Tahoes so that when you open up the back, well, actually you don't open up the back opens up automatically. 2 long cages with like 12 falcons per side come rolling out. And then the person who owns the falcons comes rolling up in like a Lexus or yeah. That's about it. Those are the craziest setups. They've got a Bentley that's made specific to falconers.
Really?
Yeah, they have that Falconer Bentley where there's a perch built into the back.
So hold on, this is stock. Like Bentley makes it. So this isn't like Bentley makes it and it goes off to some aftermarket
No, it is
shop.
a legitimate Bentley trim package.
That's neat.
Comes with like a machined perch in the back. I think it has like a air condition, or not air condition. I think it's got a built-in little freezer for hawk food or falcon food. Yeah,
that's super fancy. And I've even here one more. I've even seen where they have some people that actually over in the Middle East. Now that we're talking about that, actually hunt from camelback. And they'll have the bird on their glove, but then they'll actually have a dog box like strapped to the side of a camel, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen that with like the sight hound falcon type operation where they'll be on camelback and then either get to the area they're wanting to hunt that they can't get there in vehicle, they get there in camel and then kick the dog loose and get the rabbit up and going and then cut the falcon loose, right?
Yeah.
So when are you getting a camel?
Never.
I would like to see you hunt from camelback.
Have you ever priced a camel?
I
I
generally do it 5 or 6 times a year, but I haven't priced camels this year.
They're like 17 grand.
Is that right?
I'd rather buy a Suzuki Samurai.
Or a horse. Camel.
Horse trailer with some living quarters.
You don't have to pack water with a camel, I guess, right?
Yeah, I'm good, man.
Yeah. Well, all right, man. Thanks for breaking it all down for us. It was good talking. I think we brought up a lot of good points. I learned some new stuff. That was exciting. But thanks for coming by and sharing your knowledge with us on birds of all types and how to get them to the field and produce game. Well, thanks for coming and talking, man. Talk to you soon.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
All right. No doubt. Well, until next time, hunt them hard and treat them like heroes.
One day, I'm going to step up my manliness factor and learn how to fabricate my own boxes and stuff.
Yeah.
If you,
Yeah. I can puddle weld, but it's a nightmare. It never looks right. So I mainly just try and beg somebody to help me out.
Yeah, that's pretty much, I mean, I got a really cool dog box, but my brother made it for me. If you think my art is bad, most of my craftsmanship is even worse. And I don't know why. Because like my brother and my dad are beasts at building anything. You could tell my brother, build me a spaceship, and all you give him is like bird seed, toothpicks, and chewing gum. And it's going to make it to the moon. You know what I mean? And with me, it's like you could give me a full scale lab and you'd be like, build me a spaceship. And it would be made out of like paper mache and like wood screws and painted poorly. I don't know. I just wish I could be a better builder. And
yeah. I probably burnt all my try out when I was trying to like that talk I said with Bruce there when I was talking about the Sighthound, the dump box that I made. And I just figured I'd make it a little bit, try it out, see what I liked. I'd make it out of wood. And the first rain, everything swelled. I couldn't even open the doors anymore. And after that, I just lost all my motivation. So I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
You know what? When I was hunting with my bird dog mix long ago, 8 years ago, I actually made a wooden release box that mounted into the window of my Toyota Tacoma, and I hunted with that for 3 years, and it worked really good, actually. So you know what? I'm putting myself down a little too much. That beast worked. It got better year by year. So you know what? It can get better. And great interview with Tyler, man. That guy, he is internet famous. And now he's been on a lot of podcasts before. Who am I kidding? He's already famous, but what a wealth of knowledge. And that guy, he's a bird dog beast as well. So
yeah, we didn't even get into the bird dogs this time. Just the Raptors, but yeah, we'll save that for another time.
I was going to say, there's a lot of opportunity there, and we don't need to talk about Chris Powell. He's already pretty well known, I'd say.
Yeah.
Chad, my brother, do you got anything you'd like to add to this episode all mixed up?
Not so much. I think that's all in there. I'm sure I'll think of something as soon as we're done, but for now, I think that's got me covered.
You got anything rad coming up in the pipeline?
Let's see. They got the Drotthar test. One of my dogs is about to certify his last test so that he can breed. He's actually a Drotthar after that. That's coming up in the next few weeks. And then if all goes well there, then we got the Arm Roosters, the big, Super Bowl of Drotthar's test coming up a few weeks after that. And that's going, and it's about time to start knocking the dust off the hounds and then bring the Falcon out of the box and start getting her weight in order so that she can run with the speed dogs after some rabbits. And that's about it for now. I'm just ready for the heat to be gone so we can get out there and chase something, whatever it is.
Dude, I hate the heat. Right now it is 92 right now. I hate it. Yeah. But it'll be...
Have you had time to get yours out at all?
We had one cool front kind of move in a little bit, and I was able to get my crew out one morning, and we only had 45 minutes to jump one, and we couldn't find one, which is fine, whatever. Our prairies look unbelievable. So beautiful. So green. We got an awesome rain. It was 3 inches over the course of 2 days about 3 weeks ago, and the desert has just responded. It is amazing. It looks so beautiful out here. And the hares are rebounding. So actually, I'm looking out my window right now as we record this, and a hare just, I think, walked into my 5-acre pen. Nope. I think he's on the outside of the fence. Either way, my dogs are all watching him closely right now out the window. I figure if he comes in that yard, we'll turn out. So my dogs just keep coming up lame in my yard. I don't know what's going on. They're just getting frisky and crazy. So I guess it's a good thing. I'll let everyone kind of heal up and kind of go from there. So
clean all the cobwebs out.
Yeah, they're not fat, but they could get a little harder. You know what I mean? So anyway, for as far as my world, nope, nothing but getting ready and kind of at the last of the season, teeth grinding. Last of the summer, I guess, teeth grinding, getting ready, working on my buggy and getting everything going. So everybody that tuned in, thank you so much, you guys. All Mixed Up is coming coming at you once a month, and it's been a blast to produce this. I just love the variability. We can talk about anything we want, and I like to bring it, well, all mixed up. You know what I mean? I'm a guy with many interests, and I like to talk about stuff that I've never done or heard about. So I hope you all are enjoying it, and leave a comment. Go to Houndsman XP at Apple and leave us Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review if you guys do. Screenshot that and submit it to us on social media or email it to us, and you guys will be put in for a drawing. Well, you guys have heard the closeout for Houndsman XP a million times, but we're gonna mix it up yet again. We're gonna change up this closeout. Chad came up with a pretty good one from reading one of his books, and I like it. So, Chad, why don't you close us out, brother?
Till next time, let's work them hard and treat them like heroes.
Love it. That's from a great book, by the way. Who is that by?
David Harcombe. It's a terrier book.
There it is, guys. Go check it out.
Patterdale Terriers over in Europe.
There you go. Hey, we'll see you all next month, and I look forward to it. Until then, guys, see ya.